Hi, we've had a few questions on some of the forums about using a uBEC with a Paris board. So I thought I'd actually do a video on it finally, on how to actually make it work and what else you need to do. It's pretty simple, really. One thing I do is I just get rid of the ferrite ring. It's probably bad of me, but I do it. Anyway, strip and tin the ends of the bits of wire, and this is going to be a bit hard to see at times, but we'll go over, we'll persevere. This is an R6 board without an IMU. Don't ask. Anyway, right here up near, we've got the LED trigger pin, and just next to it we've got two holes labelled ground and BEC, and we've got ground and 5 in. So what we do is we take those two tinned wires from our BEC, the black wire goes to ground, the red wire goes to 5V in. I feed them in from underneath, you can feed them in from top depending on how you're doing your install. With the wire sitting in place, grab my nice hot soldering iron, grab my solder, and 1, 2 quick solder joints, and that's the BEC connected to the Paris board. Now, if you want to go the next step, which I highly recommend, on the back of the Paris board, and the different boards will have this in different locations, and it does show you on the page, we've got what they call the noise bridge. Now, it's easy enough to find. If you follow the tracks off the circuit board, you can see it, because it actually comes from the red wire. The track comes across to one side of that pad, and the other side of the pad is to the center wire pin of all the servo outputs, which is the positive lead. So right there you've got that little blob of solder. So what I'm going to do, I prefer to use solder wick, which again, the end is already just tin the end before you start, just makes it easier to work with, and you just place the solder wick over that blob of solder, heat with the iron, might have to just do it a couple of times, and hey presto, now what was a blob of solder is trying to get it where you can see it, two very separate bits of circuit board pad, and it's a bit hard to see, but you can actually see the black line between, so they're desoldered. So now the uBEC is powering the Paris itself and the stuff on the Paris, and all the power pins from the ESCs connections are isolated from that. So now with my ESC, when I plug that in, it's not powering the circuit board at all, but the voltage from this pin is being shared across those others. So if I plug a servo in here for a gimbal or on a tricopter, the ESC is going to power that, and the noise from the servo, etc., is just going to stay within this little section of the circuit board, and my uBEC is going to power all the delicate electronics. The other thing you might want to do, or I highly recommend, is on all but one of your BECs, we pull the red pin out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull that red wire out of the servo plug, and I use the end of a trimming knife just to very carefully lift up that little tab that holds it in. I don't want to break the tab, I just want to lift it up enough that I can pull the wire out. And if I've left the tab intact, I can put this back in. And now what you can do is just put a bit of heat shrink over that, because it will have 5V on it. Or sometimes what I do is pull all 3 wires out and actually heat shrink it back to the lead itself, like that, to keep it out of the way and insulated. And that is now electrically decoupled. So I'm not going to draw any voltage at all out of the BEC that's inbuilt into the ESC, and plug that back in, and the ESC will run a lot cooler. If you leave one connected, just one, only one, That will happily run the servos if you've got a tricopter or a gimbal. If you've got no servos on it whatsoever, you can disconnect all of them. But, you know, I tend to still leave one attached just in case. And, you know, just saves the effort of you don't have to detach them all. And that's it. If ever you want to pop it back in, they do just slide straight back in and go click, and that's secure and it's back to normal. So there you go. So pull the red wire on all but one ESC, and then you'll have just the one ESC plugging in that powers any servos you've got off this side of the board, and we've got our uBEC powering the main part of the board. And of course the JST connector just plugs into the loom coming off your LiPo. See you guys later.